Welcome to the T-Pac Arcade. Today's game is Centipede for the Atari 2600. In this 1982 fixed shooter from Atari, Oliver the Elf has found a magic wand, as elves occasionally do, and you've got to help him use it to stop the giant poison bugs from terrorizing your mushroom garden, as giant poison bugs occasionally do. Even though Centipede is a pretty simple game at its core, there's actually a lot going on here. The playfield is full of scattered blocks. The squat blocks are the mushrooms, and the tall block is you. You can move along the lower third of the screen, firing upwards at the mushrooms and giant bugs for points. The main goal here is to defeat the titular centipede, which is certainly a goal I can abide by, considering bugs are gross and centipedes are probably the grossest bugs, especially if they're giant and poisonous. So the centipede has 9 segments that move down the screen row by row, changing direction every time they hit a mushroom block. When you blast a segment, it turns into another mushroom block and splits the rest of the centipede into separate centipedes. Now I know what you're thinking. More centipedes sounds like a bigger problem than we started with. And you'd be correct, but it's the only way to ultimately defeat it, because I guess Oliver hasn't figured out the magic spell to destroy more than 18 pixels at a time. Plus, the centipede already starts out pre-divided by 1 extra segment with each new wave. So by wave 8, the centipede is just 9 independent heads. It poses a philosophical question. If having a long, gross trail of segments is what makes a centipede, how many times can you reasonably subdivide it before it's no longer considered a centipede? This must be Atari's version of the Sorites paradox. You know, the one where you've got a pile of sand, and if you take away 1 grain, it's still a pile of sand, and if you take away another grain, it's still a pile of sand, but it's impossible to define the arbitrary point where you've taken away enough grains that it's suddenly not a pile of sand. Anyway, the centipede isn't your only issue, and I don't just mean philosophically. There's also a spider jumping around the lower third of the screen, eating mushrooms and occasionally you, if you can't get away quick enough. Luckily, you can blast him with your wand, and if you do it at close range, you get bonus points, because the increased threat of death is obviously worth the risk if it means a little 900 pops up on the screen instead of a pitiful 300. Obviously. There's also a scorpion that sometimes scuttles across a row of mushrooms and poisons him if you don't blast him quick enough. Poison mushrooms turn white and cause the centipede to charge at you when it makes contact. Not a fan of that. Why can't poison mushrooms, poison the centipede instead? In any case, the final threat is the flea, which drops down the screen to plant more mushrooms whenever you've cleared too many near the bottom. This sorta goes against the whole narrative about the bugs terrorizing your mushroom garden if the flea is just going around, planting more mushrooms, but my suspension of disbelief went out the door a while ago, so at this point, I'm just going with it. There is a bit of strategy to employ here, like creating vertical channels between mushrooms to funnel the centipede into your line of fire, and picking off just the heads for extra points. But to be honest, I was really just trying to survive. I mean, I'm an elf with a half-baked magic wand trying to fight off giant poison insects. The odds are not in my favor. To be fair, Centipede does offer an easy mode, where the fleas and spiders aren't deadly, and the centipede always starts out undivided and free from the plague of Sorites. But in surprisingly uncharacteristic fashion, I played the standard mode. And not only that, I was determined to get a 6-digit score. Granted, I never did get a 6-digit score, but 88,000 ain't half bad. I wish I could say the controls in this game ain't half bad either, but that's definitely the one thing I'd change here if I could. I appreciate that holding down the action button gives you rapid fire, but for whatever reason, you can't make micro adjustments to your position with the joystick. And by that I mean, only large movements register to your clunky little elf, so fine-tuned dodging just isn't an option. But on the bright side, this didn't keep me from getting completely addicted to Centipede. I think what these mushrooms really poison you with is a just one more try mentality, and that's my favorite part of the game. I also liked some of the graphical choices here. Even though this game is a little too visually disjointed to truly claim that minimalist Atari 2600 charm, I'm a fan of the small stuff, like your little bonus score appearing from defeated spiders, and how all the mushrooms in the playfield flash one by one as the score gets tallied up when you die. I like the crunchy sound effect that accompanies it too. Same goes for the bloopy descent chime that kicks in whenever the flea drops down the screen, but I don't like the constant annoying scale that plays whenever the spider is around. The spider is also annoying though, so at least it fits. The most novel aspect of Centipede is how you actually have some range of vertical movement, unlike the standard left and right only restriction of most fixed shooters. And it's an integral part of the game too, since you've got to move up whenever the centipede reaches the bottom of the screen and starts moving along the last row. Overall, I'm pleasantly surprised by how much I like Centipede. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised since I generally like fixed shooters, but the whole bug theme made me irrationally assume that I'd hate this game because I hate bugs. And if I've learned anything from the Sorites paradox, it's that being irrational is irrational, and it doesn't matter how many segments are in a centipede as long as I get to blast him with my magic wand and save my prized mushroom garden once and for all.